subscribe the channel and hit the bell icon for latest updates. And the 2024 Met Gala dress code is. To understand the 2024 Met Gala dress code, announced today as the Garden of Time requires, first, an understanding of this year's exhibition concept. On Monday, May 6, Met Gala co-chairs Bad Bunny, Chris Hemsworth, Jennifer Lopez, Zendaya, and Vogue's Anna Wintour will welcome guests to the museum for an exhibition entitled Sleeping Beauties, Reawakening Fashion. The forthcoming show has not to do with the Brothers Grimm or Disney, but rather the celebration of clothing and fashion so fragile that it can't ever be worn again, and are thus sleeping beauties in the scrupulous archives of the Costume Institute. In this analogy, we can consider the curator in charge of the Costume Institute, Andrew Bolton, the prince for rousing these fashions for a show. Per the Metropolitan Museum of Art, we're to expect a range of fashion on display, which dates back to a 17th century English Elizabethan-era bodice, that embodies the beauty of the natural world, its fragility and its inevitable decay. More modern, less delicate pieces imbued with the same spirit as the spotlit fashions will be showcased alongside them, and broken up into three sub-themes: land, sea, and sky. The second part of understanding this year's dress code of the Garden of Time, is to know a bit about its inspiration, a short story of the same title written by J.G. Ballard in 1962. The author is perhaps most known for his novel The Empire of the Sun, which was adapted into film by Steven Spielberg. The story tells of a Count Axel and his wife, the Countess, in their utopia of leisure, art, and beauty. They live in a villa with a terrace that overlooks a garden of crystalline flowers with translucent leaves, gleaming glass-like stems, and crystals at the heart of every bloom. Though, as in all of Ballard's work, Ballardian, per contemporary dictionaries, has come to represent dystopian modernity, bleak artificial landscapes, and the psychological effects of technological, social, or environmental developments, there is a dystopian element to their paradise. Holding onto it is like trying to keep every grain of a fistful of sand intact in your palm. Beyond the walls of Count Axel's villa, an encroaching and chaotic mob draws nearer every hour. To restore tranquility, the Count must pluck a time-reversing flower from his garden until there are none left. The story ends with the unthinking mob descending onto the villa, now a derelict property with a neglected garden, in which a statue of the Count and his Countess stand entangled in thorny belladonna plants. But to borrow from TikTok, a sponsor of the gala, okay, but what are we wearing? Let's break down the many ways to interpret the theme. Boiled down, the dress code, as well as the exhibition, is about fleeting beauty. The most obvious interpretation would be to embrace the garden part of the Garden of Time. Think melancholic florals, as moody florals aren't moody enough. Among the pieces we know are in the exhibition is a black evening coat by Charles Frederick Worth from 1889, cut from a jacquard textile woven with parrot tulips that, per the Met, have an aggressive dynamic quality to them. Alternatively, gala goers can put Ballard's tale aside and dive into the exhibition itself, which celebrates nature in fashion. We know that Loewe's blurry floral dresses from fall 2023 are included in the exhibition. Anyone would be lovely. We also know that there are several Alexander McQueen looks in the show, as he was the master of cabinet of curiosity couture. His gown from spring 2001, adroitly constructed almost entirely from razor clamshells the designer collected from the beaches of Norfolk, is featured, as is Sarah Burton for Alexander McQueen's monarch butterfly wing mini dress. This tells us to go beyond blooms, look at the lesser used incarnations of flora and fauna in the fashion. If we consider the land, sea, and sky sub-themes, we might put forth fashion inspired by the grain of wood, perhaps a lovely silk moire, the pattern of fish scales, and the iridescence of a dragonfly's wing. Nature gives us so much more than flowers to fawn over. Finally, there's the broader concept of the exhibition itself, bygone fashion worth our attention. Natalie Portman has already worn a recreation of Dior's Junon, which features in the exhibition, so perhaps someone attending with Dior will turn up in Dior's Venus gown from 1949, also in Sleeping Beauties.